Welcome to Papa Junk Shop. This will be the second part of the magnetic drill build. Made a little more progress. I decided to use the bigger one and the smaller one. I guess the medium one, which is about in between the two, was quite a bit shorter. These two turned out to be the same height. So I was able to mount them on a piece of 1/4 inch plate. Got a little cutout here to give some clearance for the wires, and got them bolted on with 4 screws. So I think that'll be good for that. And then I got just happened to measure 1.5 inches from here to the total thickness of the plate and the magnets. So I had a piece of 1.5 inch by 1/4 band iron, and I welded up a square box, and I had magnets and clamps and all kinds of stuff to hold it in place to keep it square and flat. And then I put a piece of plate on top of that and had that tacked all the way around in numerous places. Then I went ahead and welded it all the way around and cleaned it off with the grinder a little bit, and everything seemed to have stayed square and flat, which is kind of unusual when you're doing a lot of welding. So this is going to go, let's see, I think this is the one I picked for the front. So this will drop right in there, like so. And then I got 2 bolts so far that are going to hold it in place. And then as I go along and determine what's going to go on the top side, I can get a few more down through. And there's someplace. I found a piece of angle iron, which is going to go right on there, and that's going to be nice and square and all that good stuff. And that's where the post will bolt onto. That'll give me a little more surface to get a little more spot to keep it nice and square. So that's how far I am so far. I think next I'm going to get this in place and go ahead and run a bead of weld down each side of that. And then there'll probably be a couple bolts down through this way too, because the transformer, which is right here, I think this is going to be mounted somewhere in this neighborhood here, so there'll be a couple bolts that'll go down through, and it'll go down through this whole works into that piece of plate underneath. So that's where we are at this point. Here's my setup for putting a flat spot on the post. Just got a couple of V-blocks and the vise. Determine where I wanted my flat spot. Got a pretty big healthy cutter in there. And I'll go up through a few more times just so I got a pretty good flat spot, so it'll stay nice and square on that base, and I won't lose any of my rigidity, so I don't want to go too awful far. Flat spot's done. Now I determined where I wanted the holes to mount the post onto the base. There's going to be one 3/4 of an inch up and one 3 inches up. And I'm going to use these cap screws. And once I get those holes drilled, I'll turn this over and I'll counterbore so that these heads will be countersunk up in the post. So they'll actually be sort of like that. So I got a center drill in there. I just got to move down to each one of those spots and get those holes drilled and counterbored. Took some of the gun bluing and put on this column because I thought if that gets any rust on it, it's pretty close tolerance there. It's not going to be happy. So hopefully that'll keep it from picking up any surface rust at all. And of course I got those two holes in there. Now I got it clamped on the base, and the base set on the die table, and I got it raised up just a whisker with a little piece of cardboard to keep it off the bottom, because I'm sure when I get everything done I'm going to have to get the bottom nice and flat. And what I did is I took a parallel in a square and got it all set up. So now I know where I can put that first hole. So I'll get that first hole and get it tapped, get the bolt in there, then I'll double check everything, and then I'll get this hole and get it tapped, and then the post will be mounted. Well, as you can see, I had to do some re-engineering. I got it together enough so I could give it a quick try, and I wasn't happy with the results. With this post out here on the edge, and that drill stuck out here quite a ways, I had an awful lot of leverage, and the magnet, I wasn't real happy with how good it was holding. So I ground them welds all off, and I turned the angle iron around the other way, cut the bottom of the post off, because it's not going to go down inside. It did go all the way down to here before, so I cut off, well, it'd be 1.5 inches plus that piece of plate, and I mounted it with a bolt through the bottom and 2 bolts here. This one was an original and this was an additional one, and that moved me back far enough, and I was able to try it again, and I had a lot better holding power with it moved back that far. And the only change that's going to make, I'm going to have to replan my power supply for back here, because that cut my room down a little bit, but shouldn't be too much of a problem, I don't think. So that's where I'm at this point. Okay, here's what I got so far for my power supply, control box, whatever you want to call it. I made an extension for the transformer out of sheet metal. Put a square hole in it for a plug-in. That's where the drill will plug in. That'll be live all the time. Cord's going to go in there via a grommet. This switch will turn the magnet on and off, and this light will indicate that the magnet is on. The bridge rectifier is mounted in here. Got a heat sink on the back side. The capacitor is going to mount on the lid, because that takes up the most space, and that'll give me a chance to have this out of the way so I can get in there and do my wiring and stuff also. And then I'll probably mount, probably put a piece of angle iron here with another piece of plate up and mount it with these three holes here. So that's where I am on that part of the project. I got to make a cover yet and the mount yet, and get it all wired up. Okay, I think I got all the parts made, cleaned up, squirted a little paint on them, and they're dry enough to handle. So I took some time, cleaned the table off, gathered them all up in one spot. Let's see, since last time I videoed, I got the bracket made. This is going to be to mount the power supply, and I got the lid made. So hopefully next time you see this, it'll be put together. I got to do the wiring and assembly, and I think we're ready for a trial run. So shouldn't be long now. Started getting a few of the parts assembled and discovered there was a missing piece I didn't make. This brace. So I got her all made and folded in place to make sure everything was alright, and I'll take it back off, give it a squirt of paint. Okay, I think the project is finally all put together. Give you a tour of the final product. This is where the drill will plug in. That's the on and off for the magnet, and a light to indicate that the magnet's on. That's the back side. Thought probably this case would be enough heat sink for that bridge rectifier, but I had this heat sink left from something else, so I just put it on the outside. And I left it on for a few minutes and it did get warm, so I guess it's going to work. I know it's pretty hefty. I wonder what it does weigh. Hang on a minute. Get my trusty scales out here. Wow, about 40 pounds. So let me find a hunk of metal and we'll give her a whirl. Okay, I found a piece of rusty old, I don't know, I think it's 3/8. I didn't measure it, but it looks like 3/8 inch plate. Don't know what kind of stuff it is, but we'll give her a try here. I think that's a 1/4 inch bit. Successful. So let's move back just a little bit. Try another one. Okay, let's switch out to a 1/2 inch bit. See how that'll. Okay, in order to do that, I'm going to have to move this up a notch. I noticed I got a little slack here, but that's from the set screw that goes in on that quill. It's at an angle and it's got a little bit of play in it. So let's see how this works for boring out the hole a little bigger. So I need to, should have left the thing in place. There, let's try that. Apparently we're about ready to break through. Alright, looks like she's going to work. So I guess this one's finally come to an end. If you liked her, give me a thumbs up and please subscribe. Another thing, if any of you guys make any of these projects like I made, and I'm sure you'll have some better ideas and improvements and stuff, you know, let me know. I'd like to see it. So until next time, have a good day.